That's cool. I didn't even mean to do that. I think it's preset now, the intro and the outro. So I guess this technology is getting smarter than me. But man, this is awesome. It's 2025. This is Planetary Health First, Mars Next. This is Mr. Michael Mann, and I'm here with my partners in crime, Alyssa Abo and Suzy Engwall. And what are we going to do today? What's getting you guys excited? You've had a lot of time away from us, and so who wants to start it off?
I'm happy to just kind of talk a little bit. I'm just excited that we've got a new year coming and so many great things to look forward to. So we've got a lot of great conferences coming down the pipeline, a lot of great new technologies. Of course, AI is moving faster than ever. So maybe we can just talk a little bit about what we think 2025 looks like.
Cool. Alyssa, how about you?
Yeah, I'm with Suzy. It's always fun at the beginning of the year. It feels like things are happening at a rapid pace. And I thought that this past fall was just totally crazy with conferences. And as the three of us were catching up, it doesn't seem like the winter is going to be much better. So I'm excited for what's out there and to see what's happening. I think AI and the technologies will certainly be the center of attention, but it'll be interesting to see how there is a little bit of a shift around that from 2024.
So what are you thinking with general artificial intelligence, generalized intelligence? What are you guys seeing in the ecosystem?
For me, I think everybody's talking about all these AI agents right now. I think the other thing I've seen over the last year that I hope is a trend that changes is that a lot of companies that don't need AI are adding AI, and I'm not sure what it does. So I think over the next year, we'll start to get people to understand kind of the differences between like automations and AI agents and whether or not you really need AI to make your technology great. It's such a buzzword that I think a lot of people have kind of tried to jump on the AI train and aren't really sure where they're going with it. So I'm starting to see companies come to the forefront that are helping other companies strategize around where they can use it and where they can't, which I think will be a good thing to offer in the next year too.
I'll piggyback off of that. And I think from 2024, we talked a lot about AI in general, but for 2025, it seems there's a really big push on making it actionable. And what does that really mean? And so we know the technologies are there. We now expect that most of the technologies have some sort of AI embedded in them, but how do we really act upon that? And from the clinical perspective, how do we actually integrate that into the workflow and make it matter? So I think now that there's a little bit of a focus on that, or not even a little bit, there seems to be a larger focus on that. Hopefully we'll see the impact from it all. So I'm excited to see what that will entail.
Me too.
So this is a weird one, but what about this supercomputer XAI with 100,000 houses of power every year? Anything on that? The Colossal in Memphis, Tennessee. I mean, I'm going to just throw random little spitballs out.
I think you're going to see more and more of these big supercomputing things kicking off. I've heard a lot about multiple companies trying to do this. I think one thing we have to worry about is, do we have the power to power everything that needs to be powered? I had the same thought around even electric vehicles, right? How do we maintain that? And me, I live in Southern California where the temperature goes above 90 and we lose electricity. So trying to figure out how do we make sure that we've got the power that we need to do some of this big, powerful computing is going to be an interesting topic this year. I think we're going to see a lot of things happening with it, and this is going to be talked about a lot. Can I predict the future about what it's going to look like? I don't know, but it's definitely something that's on my radar.
I think we definitely need fusion, nuclear. But anyway, there's the grid needs to be 2025 updated, the grid and also all power sources. Yeah.
I love that we're talking about this super fancy technology, and I'm just struggling to make sure my head is in the center of the box.
Same.
I want to keep adjusting this, Okay, I'm good now, but
all right.
I'm right.
Well, we have to have someone that's really actually keeping us from just doing a lot of BS. I'm just like reading like the clips and don't know anything either. So don't worry, Alyssa.
Thank you.
Well, I think that's the thing, is that there's so much news and information out there. It's how do you make heads or tails of all of it. And I think, as we start to kind of get into the new conference season, which, we kind of touched on a minute ago, we're going to start to see some themes emerging. And I think that's going to tell us a lot about the direction things are going into the new year. But I know, even just with JP Morgan coming up, one of the events that I'm going to is all about AI and all about how it's being used in healthcare. And so I think the more of that we can take in so that we can get a better understanding, because I don't know everything in this space for sure. There's a lot of stuff I need to do to catch up. I'll be the first one to admit that. Yeah. I do feel like I have a little bit of a grasp on it, more so than maybe others. But at the same time, I also know there's a lot of people that are far more knowledgeable than we are. And how do we figure out the fluff from the real stuff? I think that's going to be an area for me to focus on this year. When does it matter? Why does it matter? And how is AI actually moving us forward? Because if you're a startup and your use of AI isn't doing anything, I don't see the point.
Yeah. And certainly certain markets in that seem to be getting saturated already, and just trying to figure out how to differentiate some of these companies that seemingly at a very high level seem to be doing the same thing, but at a micro level are not, and probably have some differentiation. And look, there can totally be more than one company that's doing the same thing. That's fine. I think that keeps the market healthy. But I think from a consumer perspective or from a clinician's perspective of trying to figure out which ones would be good working clinically, I still think it's really hard to tell that.
Well, I hope to have Doug Fritzma from Health Universe, and it sounds like they're just releasing a chat bot. Forgive me, a chat agent, physician kind of empowered, really with the clinical. So hopefully, Alyssa, you can have some opportunities to try out. Hopefully, some companies will be smart enough to get the physician point of view. But I'm hoping to have him on. I started seeing them advertising or putting stuff in Instagram or Facebook. That's a great way to give people awareness. So I reached out, so I'm trying to get him on the show. So anyway, JP Morgan, I will be there. Suzy, what are you excited about there? I think people would love to know, because I'm going to put this out there real soon. Tell me about JP Morgan in your world.
Well, there's a few things I'm excited for JP Morgan. There's an AMD event that's going to be focused on sort of the AI space in healthcare, which I just kind of talked about. There's so many good events, and I'm actually trying to figure out how do I spend my time and where do I go. On Wednesday, the 15th, I'm going to spend most of my time at the Enterprise Singapore event. And I'm excited for that one for a couple of reasons. Singapore is a great emerging market, all of Asia, but Singapore has really done a lot over the last few years to really help boost med device and med tech. And so I'm really excited to spend time with that group and to understand what some of the good technologies are coming out of that region. I've been trying to integrate myself into that region over the last 6 months and get to know some of the key players a little bit better. So that's one thing I'm really excited about. And then Innovator MD is hosting an event as well that I'll be speaking on a panel on around pitching and things like that. So I always look forward to those discussions. There's just so many things taking place that I just don't even know where to start. And that's the hard part. I only get to be there for 3 days because I've got conflicts, but I'm excited. How about you? What are you looking forward to?
I'm just I have a few conversations that I'm trying to get going, and JP Morgan, I'm still trying to process and get what I'm going to do. I know it's not much time, but I think it's interesting. You talked about Singapore. They are really great with US is great, but for the innovation, seems like some other countries like Israel and some others, but Singapore, especially in longevity, I keep on seeing a lot of activity in longevity. Some of the stuff that might be a little, I don't know, like even Honduras, I think, has a specific little place that they do stuff that just wouldn't make it with clinical trials. It's just too risky. And I know it's, so that's fascinating. But anyway, I think that is the one thing that I'm getting more interested in general, just metabolic health, trying to be healthier, trying to get rid of sugar. I mean, I know it's a no-brainer, but it's just like trying to live a life. And this isn't just like New Year's resolution, but it is sort of just, it's a good reset. But, the food we eat and kind of our lifestyle is so much, I'm hoping to see a lot more companies, a lot more conversations, how that can empower with doctor, physician-led, smartly led, because it really is metabolic. These practices can really, I think, make a long difference in our overall healthcare when we adapt and adopt to them, I'm hoping. So that's my hope.
And we're going to see a lot more in the food as medicine realm. I think with the new administration coming in, there being a push for it, I think that's going to be really helpful. I know not everybody thinks the new administration is going to be good for medtech, but I think there are going to be a lot of spaces where it can be. And so I'm really trying to be optimistic about that coming out. But I think longevity and food as medicine are two really important topics, especially now that our aging population, it continues to grow. I don't know, Alyssa, you probably have some good thoughts on that too.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, I think we often find ourselves in a situation where it's hard to get healthy foods, but it's easy to get the medicines. And I'm not even referring to like the GLP-1s, like it's not always so easy to get those, but I am saying it's easier to get meds for hypertension and things of that nature than it is to actually get healthy foods. So I think this has been sort of a long time coming in a very slow roll type of way. And so I think it's here now, and hopefully that will be more of the focus. And it's funny, it's so simple, right? I mean, we talk about these fancy technologies and AI, and then we just talk about like fruits and vegetables. You're like, how is this all the focus of this large med tech life science ecosystem? But it's so fundamental to our health. And so I really do hope that it will continue to be a big push going into this next year. And I'm with Suzy. I know that there are people who have differing opinions of what this administration is going to look like, but I too am really trying to stay optimistic. And actually was recently at a Medtech conference and listening to a panel. And one of the things that came up that people were optimistic for coming into 2025 was actually around fundraising. And I already am having some FOMO that I do not plan to attend JP Morgan, although you never know, I could be a last minute addition. Maybe
that would be awesome.
Down and, sleep on Suzy's couch, but, there'll be no hotel rooms. But in all seriousness, a number of the companies that I'm working with are going to JPM, and that's part of the buzz. The buzz is always around networking and meeting people, but this year in particular, I think people are hoping that the fundraising climate's just a little bit better than it was towards the end of last year. And so if that's, part of what 2025 brings, healthier food and more capital for fundraising, I think the future looks pretty bright.
That'd be amazing. Those are my two wishes for the new year. I love it.
In crypto and Bitcoin, are you guys into Bitcoin yet?
I have a little bit of Doge that I bought 1 million years ago. And outside of that, I think I have like 0.5% of a Bitcoin somewhere too. But outside of that, no.
Oh my gosh, I don't have any. I'm so impressed.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say somebody that's really familiar with it at one point said, buy this Bitcoin. I'm like, I'll buy a little bit of it and see what happens. And so it's just saying that I don't even know what it's worth or if it's worth anything. So
yeah, the only thing I know, my little nephew works at a Bitcoin mining company. He just soon to be graduating. He studies computer science and then also finance. And he just got me talking. He just talked and talked during July 4th weekend when we caught up, and he got me in. And I think everyone, the fact that BlackRock and a lot of these big financial firms are saying about 1% to 2% allocation. We're just talking Bitcoin. We're not talking all the cryptos like Doge and whatnot, or it's all speculative. But it just so I also got into MicroStrategies, which is Michael Saylor. He owns more Bitcoin. His firm. It's a publicly traded company. So I don't know. I just think it's something interesting, and I would hope that we'd see some intermediary finance and solutions that might come out of it with healthcare, a way to fund healthcare, a way to maybe if there's a way to get excited about a way that people can more finance their own premiums. Some insurance might get sexy or something. I don't know. Anyway, I'm just throwing it out there.
That'd be nice. Anything we can do to help people get the healthcare they need at an affordable cost would be amazing. And if it means that we've got to bring crypto into the conversation, then let's bring it in. There's too many people in today's world, in this day and age, and especially when you look at our country versus others on things like infant mortality and things like that, we're way behind other countries. And there's got to be a better way that we can get people the healthcare that they need at an affordable cost. It's just whatever we're doing now is not working. So if it means we bring in Bitcoin or whatever it is that we do, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And I'm actually going to try to do some more intermittent fasting. I know I'm hearing some physicians that say it's okay, like it could be good. I don't know. I hope you guys don't think I'm some nut now that I'm going on all this
I
sort of stuff.
intermittent fast too.
Okay, all
That
right.
doesn't make it less nuts. Maybe I'm just nuts with you, but I do it too.
I know a ton of people that do it. I'm hypoglycemic, so I can't. Like my blood sugar level drops, and I'm dead to the world. So I just can't do it. It makes me feel too sick. But I know a lot of people that do it and swear by it. So I think you're gonna be really happy if you can get past the first few days. I think you'll really like it. How do you like it, Alyssa?
I do. Coming off of a family trip, I'm not sure I was doing it so well the last week. But generally I do. And now I just have, become accustomed to it, that just have black coffee in the morning and I'm good to go. Wow. But I will share with you, Michael, if you're into this intermittent fasting, that someone had just suggested to me, actually in a work call earlier today, that they're using ChatGPT for their health and wellness. And I was like, oh, that's, really interesting. I mean, I use it a lot. I use it mostly to improve writing and things of that nature. I'm really into credit card points. This might be more than the two of you need to know. So I recently used ChatGPT for credit card points and figuring out which credit card you should use.
Awesome.
Shout out to like the group coming around cards and points. They'll be so happy to know. But then when someone said, yeah, using it for your health and wellness and coming up with exercise plans and things, I thought, like, what a great way to scour all the resources, because the majority of the time, if I Google something around fitness, health, becoming leaner, whatever, you're getting lots of ads and companies trying to sell you. It's actually really hard to get the nitty gritty material that you want to read about, around protein ratios and things like that. So anyway, I'm going to try that. I'm happy.
I love that you're sharing that, because it's so hard, from a physician, sharing the challenges. And I think there's so many companies that could be born out of just helping you, like, be empowered to do the habits, the nudges, the simplification. And I will say, I would check out Instagram. Once you start getting in the right algorithms, I'm like getting dialed in. So I have another one for planetary health, and hey, please like me, subscribe. When you have all these different channels, it's like dispersion. You can have like millions and zillions on X, and then you are not X because you are on Blue Sky or LinkedIn, but not. And then on Instagram, it's just like every TikTok, whatever. But Instagram, I'm finding, is really good with quickly curated, and I'm sure TikTok too, but it just seems like Instagram's algorithms are very well dialed in with like the a lot of this the nutrition, a lot of these good subject experts that might have up to 1 million or so followers. And I've been really finding it very educational, but as well as ChatGPT. But like the other night, I just found like 3 good things at Costco, like Brazilian nuts, and then like pickled herring. Not that I'd like to want to eat that, but and then what's the other kumji? What's the Korean that's really kimchi. Good? Kimchi, yeah. So yes, I mean, I'm just going to add like 3 of those things. It seems like, and then we? My wife keeps on complaining like, oh, I'm getting brain fog. I say, are you walking every day? And are you drinking at least 8 cups of water? Because you go to the doctor and you get lab work. If you're not doing the basic level stuff, none of it's going to work. So anyway, I'll stop. That's my little plug.
I love it. I think it's great. And the Instagram thing I can't do because I end up buying a bunch of hair devices that never work for me. So I'm like, I can't get on there because I'm like, ooh, look how amazing that is and how easy it was. And it's never that easy or amazing.
Oh my God. Start your own mini meds, your little like channel on Instagram. And that could be your way to get a new signal there, maybe.
Yeah, that's right. Alyssa, do you get stuck on the hair device?
I know. I mean, like all of it, and I just can't imagine having one more social media distraction, which might be like a sign of age. I just don't know. But I feel like keeping up with LinkedIn is just good enough for me. I try to contribute a little here and there, support people in their endeavors, hear what's happening. And then it's a good way to keep your finger on the pulse, at least in medtech. But my goodness, no, the thought of like Snapchat and Instagram and my kids actually asked me what the different ones were, and I'm like, I'm not actually sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Do people still use Snapchat? I don't even
I
know.
don't even know.
Yes,
Time.
my daughter was using it. I think she got rid of it.
Okay.
But I think
Oh,
it's more of a generation that we're a little younger, a little older.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked it the first way that you said it.
Yeah.
I'm with that too. Uh-huh.
So I guess the other thing that I like, what we're going to be doing Vive. What do we want to talk about with Vive? I know it's a little there's a lot going on there. And what are you guys seeing? I know you went to health last time, Alyssa, and was very engaged with all the physician networking. What are you guys hoping to see, or some of the things you'd like to get out of, or conversations you'd want to have at Vive in Nashville too? Nashville, that's kind of cool.
So I love going to Nashville. I mean, it's only my second time, but I really enjoyed being there last time. So I'm looking forward to Nashville. And I actually really enjoy going to Vive. Not that I don't enjoy also going to health. I enjoy that also, but Vive is just a little bit more calm, if you will. And so I find it easier to navigate, easier to meet up with folks, and not maybe the adrenaline is just not as high, but in a good way. So I'm looking forward to the pace of that. And then I do think that it's nice that it tends to focus more on the digital health part of the Medtech ecosystem, or, obviously it's beyond Medtech, but I do like the digital health angle. So it'll be interesting, given our earlier conversation around AI, to see how the buzz is there, given like what it was at health, where you see, like, I feel like it's the big catch-all, and still we all kind of came away with this AI buzz. So I expect that we'll see that. And then to the physician part, I will say health did a really nice job engaging more physician and also more nurses this time, which was really nice to see. And so I've started to see some of that material come through of the payer and provider connect programs and things. So I hope that more physicians and nurses will actually apply to be a part of that, because I think it's a really nice way for the Vive team to actually help create those collaborations across the ecosystem. So I'm looking forward to it. And I'm sure something new will pop up that I didn't expect. And so I love that part too.
I'm glad you mentioned the physicians and clinicians, because I think, going to Vive last year and then going to health, and maybe it's because, like you said, there's so much going on. It's hard to get to everything. But I felt like at Vive, I was able to interact a little bit more with health systems and with clinicians and physicians last year than I was at health. Yeah. And it may just be because I was busy, talking to med device companies and things like that. But I'd really love to be able to bring in more health systems and more folks that work inside of health systems to talk about what they're looking for in the coming year, and what tools are new for them that have been useful for them, and especially from that AI perspective, but from a medical device perspective as well. I think it's important to stay up on the pulse of this, but I feel like we talk about innovation and healthcare innovation a lot in our ecosystem and in this medtech ecosystem. And we talk to investors, and we talk to M&A, departments from the big strategics, and we talk to all of these different groups. But oftentimes I feel like the health systems are kind of an afterthought to the conversations. And this ecosystem is we wouldn't be able to do any of this without them using the products. So I'd really love to bring in more of those folks, I think, while we're there. And I did see quite a few of them at Vive last year. So that's one thing that I'm definitely looking forward to, and trying to get the health systems, I think, more engaged in general across the whole year. But from a Vive perspective, I think that's something I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, it seems like with healthcare systems, they are able to get out there with more preventative, there's a lot of things that they can be doing, and you'd think they would probably have an appetite for, as this consumer tech is still moving forward. How are they going to evolve? What are they going to do to kind of be ahead of the curve? And I think if you talk to those innovative health systems, that ecosystem, it could be pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm glad you mentioned the innovative health systems that are at that forefront, because I do actually think that they're paving the way. And there's a lot of lessons learned in that process. And it would be great to see more of that being shared, because there's a lot of health systems that are looking to the leaders see what happened, or see how they paid for it, or see, what went well, what didn't. And I think being able to share some of that. And I totally agree with Suzy. Like at Vibe, it's actually just easier for folks to kind of connect with each other. And even if people within the healthcare system world are connecting each other, like it's nice to kind of see that happen, because I think there's a lot of value in those conversations. So so we'll see. But I do think that moving into this year, hospitals are going to have to figure out how to prioritize the technologies. And I still work clinically, but not as part of a large healthcare system. And I don't envy people in that position making those decisions, because like we talked about, you have food as medicine, you have AI, you have concierge medicine, you have home health, and you can't do it all at the same time. And so how do you prioritize in a way that you can start to bring in the technologies into your healthcare system and layer upon them or build something out? But it's not just you're doing things one off. And I think that takes a lot of time and effort and thought, and also learning from other people's experience in that regard, I think could help expedite the process. So we'll see.
Absolutely. Love that.
This is just something that popped into my head. Whoever can figure out to prevent older adults from falling is a zillionaire. I can't tell you how many times my mom and dad are falling. It's just really with the medications. My dad's 92. He's really frail. Oh my gosh, whether it slips, just comes right out of his wheelchair. My mom has had some, whatever, it's multiple, some medications or whatever. And gosh, it is like, I'm living through this real life, real time. And it's just the amount and how many paramedics are using it, whatever. And you just can't get older adults up, even if you're a big, anyway, I'm just throwing that out. That's just random spitball. So anyway.
It's important. And there are a lot of companies that are doing some good things around fall prevention. There's a company I'm actually working with out of Singapore that is doing that will, actually alert you if someone's getting up from their hospital bed. It doesn't prevent them from falling, but it gives you an early warning. You can go in and assist them. The hard part is, for people who live on their own, how do you know? Like, my son's, one of his grandparents just recently had a fall, and it's something that's happening all the time. And he was just talking to me. They went for a walk the other day, and he's like, I wish grandpa would use a walker, but he doesn't want to. And I told him, I said, you got to talk him into it. You've got it, because these falls lead to major other problems. You break a hip and it's all downhill from there. Mm-hmm. So how do we do that? But you're absolutely right. It's a huge challenge.
I think we need more robots from Singapore and Japan eventually, like R2D2 assistive. Like, it just seems like I don't know when we're going to get there, but just like something that helps to transition, like that just, takes a rollator and gets it really smart. I know Japan is there a little more than us, and we're just not there, and maybe the cost point, but at some point, I mean, not like the Optimus Prime or Optimus, like Elon Musk, like looks like a, CP3, but I think people, like, if there was something that my mom or dad could use, even though, my dad has dementia, he's got cognitive impairment, but, he uses his his rolling walker or standard walker. But it's those things, like just something like smart tech that can assist to leverage the I don't know. I just can't believe there's not stuff out there that can help people transition out of the bed, transition onto the toilet, transition into the shower, and then remind you their medications. That's like a $1 zillion industry.
Yeah. And I think it's just so hard to make it foolproof, right? Like, mm-hmm. You've got humans in the way, and I know even when my father was aging, he didn't want to use any assisted devices, right? Because you feel like you're losing your freedom. And so that's part of the challenge too, I think. But I'm actually, and I don't want to change the subject completely, but I'm glad you brought up Elon, because I think the brain interface is going to be a really interesting topic this year when we're thinking about use of different technologies. I'm really excited to see how that is all coming to fruition and what's happening with it. And not just his company, but some of the other companies that are out there working on different types of brain interface devices and things like that right now. I don't know if you guys have gotten into that space at all, but I just think it's a cool space.
I know I saw a little bit of it where they like validated it. Was that like 6 months ago or 4 months ago, where they had that gentleman who was a veteran, and he he was one of the first in the trials or whatever, just to make sure it was like setting right. I saw that demonstration. Now, I hate to say it, part of me is very skeptical and thinking, God, they could just do a Houdini trick, like a minimalist trick, like, as if it's hooking up with the brain and you can move it. But I guess it's validated. There's ways to make sure that they're not just making it up. But anyway.
I think there's going to be a lot of great implications for people who have like prosthetic arms and legs and things like that. And I think it's going to make a big difference there. It's kind of scary, but it's also cool at the same time. Kind of one of those areas that I'm really interested in seeing where it's going and who's doing what in the space.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love how you bring that up, because it's like, what is the problem? What is the problem you're solving for? And some of it might be the cognitive, where it loops in, and people might have difficulty using their speech or whatever. But then if that is able to get in the feedback loop and then allow some sort of device, or I think that's really super cool. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, I think it's an area we're going to see grow, and I think it's an area that we're going to see some advancements in fairly quickly. So it'll be curious to see if at any of these upcoming conferences, because there's a lot. We talked about Vibe, we talked about JP Morgan, but next week is Consumer Electronics Show. So I'm excited to go there and see what the healthcare organizations are doing, and I'll see what's kind of going on there. But we also have HIMSS coming up, that I think all three of us will likely be at as well.
Yeah.
And LSI in March, which is one of my favorite conferences, MedTech Innovators, kicking off. So for startups, if you're watching and you haven't applied to MedTech Innovator and you need help, you got to apply. It's one of the best accelerator programs there is. But there's so many cool
And where
things.
is that? Tell us more about that.
About MedTech Innovator?
Yeah.
So MedTech Innovator is a program that runs from January to October, and they usually get about 2,000 applications a year and go through several cycles of vetting of the different companies before they select the final 65. Typically about 65 companies go through their accelerator, and they are a nonprofit organization, and this going through their accelerator is free. It doesn't cost the companies anything. They can actually win money in the end. But the cool thing about them is that they're supported by a lot of the large strategics. So you think about J&J, American Association, some Plastic Surgery Association, American Heart Association, and then all the strategics like the Medtronics of the world usually play a role in what they're doing. And I hope Medtronic is one of them. I might be speaking out of term. But they support
Boston Scientific. Why not? No, I'm just saying.
They bring in a lot of their team to help support these companies. So by the time they graduate from the program, they have been mentored and vetted by some of the top people in the field throughout the world. So it's a really, really great program. And I think they started around 2013. I've been mentoring for them for the last couple of years. But the really cool thing about them is that if you look at their track record, it's amazing. So since the time that they, from the beginning, 95% of every company that's gone through their program has either been acquired or is still around today. And that's huge statistic, because we know how many startups fail. So I really, really love their program. Paul and his team do a great job with it. So if you're a startup in your early stage, or maybe even a little bit later stage, but you need some help, it's a really, really good program to apply for.
Man.
And just to add to that. So like Suzy, I've also been involved with them for a few years now. And when people want to also get involved in the community and MedTech, start to advise for companies, I also suggest that they get involved in MedTech Innovator, because it's amazing to be a part of the deliberations even. So the company's pitch, and I can't tell you how much I've learned as one of the mentors in that deliberation. I mean, you're sitting next to folks from the FDA and then the investors and then legal, and you're like, oh yeah, that's a great point. I wouldn't have thought about that. So I think the network is it's really impressive for the startups, but it's also really, I think, impressive for the advisors and the mentors. So if people are looking to get involved in advising startups, but they're not sure where to start, more often than not, I send them in that direction. And then they'll start a road tour. So they'll be on the East Coast, West Coast, and then
Dublin,
Ireland. Yeah, they go to Dublin, right? So, I'll, whoever's on the East Coast, I'll see them when they're here. But definitely worth getting involved.
The really cool thing about the rounds that we kind of sit in and help mentor at the early stage when they're trying to kind of whittle it down to the 65, is that even companies that go through the first round, even if they don't make it past that, they get so much benefit from it, because they're literally pitching over and over again to tables of industry people all day long. it's the only thing that I've ever, it's one of those places that you go and it's all about the startups all day long, not about anything else. It's not about networking. It's not about, even though you do get to network if you're a mentor, but you're not there for that purpose. You're there to help these startups. Everybody's coming to the table to help these startups. So, if Alyssa and I are at one of those events, we probably are seeing, 10 or 15 or 20 startups in one day pitching to a table of folks like us from all over, from hospitals, from the strategics, from from industry, so you've got your CROs that actually participate as well that can help and talk about regulatory and reimbursement and things like that. So it's just a really good program. I'm impressed with it every year.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you both brought this up. It sounds awesome. So where does it start? Is it a physical location that they have, or these hybrid?
Apply online, and the applications are vetted online first, and then they invite people to come and pitch. They invite the startups for the first round of pitching, either in LA, on the East Coast. I think New York. You might know Alyssa better than I do.
It's usually DC or Maryland on the East Coast.
Yeah, and then they also have one in Dublin as well, and then now they have an Asia Pacific program as well that I've been a little bit involved in too.
And so what I mean, I know you don't know everything about it. It sounds like you do almost. What, like, typically, like, last year, what about the applicants? How many applied, did you say?
I don't work directly for them. I just
Okay.
help. But my understanding is, I think last year it was between 1,500 to 2,000 applications last year. And that was whittled down to, I think this year they had just over 65 companies, but it averages out to be about 65 companies through the USA program, which actually does have people from around the globe that participate. And then they also now have their Asia Pacific program. And I don't know how many applications they get for that.
But what you said with the 95% success rate with longevity, meaning that they're still in business or they were acquired, is just that to me is like, I don't think there's anything out there that's ever been to that. Like, I mean, I know Y Combinator is very successful, and with the brand is a really good venture, whatever, accelerator, and that likes, but geez, for that to be that successful, those numbers, I almost don't believe it. So anyway, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that all of them are huge startups making millions of dollars. They're not all unicorns, of course, but the fact that they're still around and operational and working toward becoming, where they want to go, I think is pretty big.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, man, where do we go here? We're kind of coming towards the end. Is there anything that each of you personally, this as the second day of January 2025, that you're trying to get all excited about, some big, hairy, audacious goal or something exciting that you want to just put out there in the universe, or that you want to noodle while we're here?
I got to plug LSI because you guys, full disclosure, I do work for them. I am their fractional VP of partnerships, but it's one of my favorite conferences of the year. It always has been. The USA event is amazing. It's one of the best places for startups to meet the people that go on to fund them and to meet the people that go on to acquire them. There's a lot of great relationships that come out of those events, and people come to do business there and stay. They don't come and sit on a panel and leave. They're actually accessible. You can meet investors that are accessible, and that's why I'm doing work for them. But we're launching LSI Asia for the first time ever in June. And that's kind of what I've been focusing heavily on for the last few months. And I hope to see everybody in Asia in June, or at the USA or Europe event this year. But I'm really excited for it. And I wouldn't be doing this work for them if I didn't love the event so much. So for me, that's my big goal this year, is to try and make Asia successful.
And we're in Asia. Asia's a kind of isn't it a continent? Forgive me with my bad geography.
Yeah, so it's the whole APAC region. That's what we want to attract there. But it'll be held in Singapore. So we're working with a lot of the great groups like Enterprise Singapore, EDB, A-Star, APAC Med, all of the groups that really help kind of further that ecosystem in the region, and then bringing in folks from Australia, Japan, China, everywhere. So really
now when you go to, it's June, is that what you said? Yeah. Does Alyssa and Michael need to help you, like, with your bags, like to set up and all that?
I think you do, actually. I think I do need that.
No, after living in Korea, you don't have to ask me twice to go back to Asia. So I'm there.
I love it. I love it. I'd love to see you guys there for sure.
It'd be fun.
Yeah. What about you, Alyssa? What's your big thing this year?
Yeah, so let's see. Personally, but / professionally, my big thing this year is that I at the end of last year decided to be a limited partner for Scrub Capital, and so I am super excited for Scrub. Yeah, thanks. I've been looking into the VC space for a while, trying to figure out like where it made sense to land, and I just met them when we were at Health, actually. I was just really impressed I met Rebecca in person and then sort of knew of Chrissy and John and was just really impressed with this idea of creating a fund with physicians and clinicians in mind. And so
Love that.
So I'm super excited to see like what they have in store, and I'm incredibly grateful to be a part of it. And I have a lot to learn, and I figured, the best way is just to jump in and to be a part of it. So
Now,
say again.
Have they already raised their first fund, or are they raising that?
So they're in the process of doing that now, and starting to make investments. And it's just part of it started off as clinicians who VC, and so there was already a lot of buzz around clinicians who are interested in the space, and so there was already a bit of a community around it that obviously is continuing to grow. So it's really exciting. And, I love doing this with the two of you because I feel like we all kind of come at it from a bit of a different angle, but we complement each other and it works, And so being able to see that change in the VC space is very exciting because for a long time, it really wasn't like that. And it was very hard for physicians and clinicians to break in. And quite frankly, it still is. But I think from at least my perspective, it's like, no, like we want to help you figure out where to put your money so the technology gets to the people that we take care of. Right. So, so super excited about that. And then the other thing that I'm looking forward to in 25, that's not obviously me personally, I'm a total dork when it comes to wearables. I mean, like I really love them to my core. So I'm very excited to see what's going to happen this year because I think like, oh yeah, we cannot do that. And then I saw something on LinkedIn, which I'm sure the two of you saw. If not, I'll send it to you, about something around the AirPods and being able to detect EEGs.
I saw that. I know. I'm like, what? I saw that. It was so intriguing to me. Yeah.
It was so intriguing to me too. And I'll actually leave you with this. So not a plug for Apple, but my first computer was the Apple IIgs. And when we were with family over the break, my parents reminded us that we went to Boston and met Jobs at this like Mac Apple convention, probably in the 80s, and I was like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot about that. So it's not, what's that?
Your parents take pictures?
And what's crazy is, right, like there's no digital version of this, right? So we have to now go digging through hard copies of pictures, but for sure.
Oh, you got it.
Yeah. And I think it was like Jobs and was like, it might be both. Like, it's just crazy. And recently Apple said they want, towards the end of last year, they said they really want to be remembered as a healthcare company. And I was like, oh, please stop. And then I saw the commercial with the AirPods where the person, can hear. And my whole family was like,
I love that commercial.
I can't get enough of that commercial. And then I saw this rendering on LinkedIn and I was like, oh my gosh, like, it's just really incredible.
I'm actually glad you brought that up because this is exactly what startups should strive for. Yeah. And one of the things that I've kind of been on my, kind of been preaching to the choir over the last few years is telling your story and telling it in a way that makes people care. That commercial brings tears to my eyes.
Same.
And Apple has been great at that from day one. It's one of the things that has set them apart and made them these simple commercials that tell the story. Tell me a story without telling me they didn't have to tell me what the product does. Yeah. The commercial showed me that, hey, this guy can't hear what his kids are doing and now he can. And that's pretty awesome. So I feel like those kind of things set the tone for it. And I see too many startups in this space that learn to pitch to investors and then keep pitching the same way when they're trying to pitch to health systems or trying to pitch to people who they want to adopt their product. And the pitch shouldn't be the same. The pitch should be about, what are you doing for me? How are you making my life better? How are you solving a problem for the world? Yeah. And if you can tell me that without saying a word or takes like some of the Apple magic that they have, it's just amazing. Like, it's amazing to me how they can continue to tell their story in such a compelling way over and over and over and over again. And so many others can't. Like, what is that secret sauce that they have that enables them to have that great ability? But I love that. I'm so glad you brought it up. It's amazing.
No, and I'm so glad. Just, I couldn't agree more with what you said, and it's so well said. There's really not much more to add, except the last thing I'll just say is, like, it's that human element, right? Like, the more we talk about tech, then we're trying to bring it back. And I will say, like, Michael, every time you share about your dad, it really, like, touches me every time. The fact that you're so open about it and how challenging that is. Like, I never think, you've never said it and I'm like, oh yeah, I know that. Like, every time you say it, I'm like, yeah, like, that is challenging. And I hope you continue to share those stories, because, to Suzy, to your point, if we can find the companies that have the technologies that can actually help people in their day-to-day living, because at the end of the day, like, we're all human. And if it's not us, it's our parents, our siblings, our kids, our spouses. Like, we want better health all around. And I agree with you 100%, Suzy, that, people are, like, really talking about the story and the storytelling, but it's really just being genuine about that story,
Exactly.
right? Really, like, what that means, because so many of these companies are so mission driven. Like, there's something at their core that they're really fundamentally trying to solve for. And I feel like all of us are a part of that in a different way. So anyway, with that, Michael, I'll let you close us out, but
Well,
thank you for always bringing us together.
I'm just so lit or excited, just like with you here, both of you, and hearing what you're doing with LSI and, with the Medtech innovators, Suzy, and then now I guess what's cool, Alyssa, is, like, we're in the green room and you didn't even share with us this great new thing, like, is it your LP with Scrub Capital. And I'm like floating right now. I just think this is so awesome, because really it's like everything you guys are doing is like, nothing's by mistake. Yeah. Nothing is just, like, random or accidental. These are steps that you guys have been doing so long along the way. And so, and I'm glad you reminded me. I don't know why I am curious with these things, like, from a personal thing with my dad and mom, and it just is the curiosity, just like having you guys on. Like, we had no idea what we were going to talk about. Sorry, everyone. But it ended up being great content. It was great, just real conversations. And so I don't know. I'm still processing, and I know it sounds really bad, but it's January 2nd, and I really haven't formally just sat and really thought through, what do I want this year to be? But I think just being present right now with all that is, and just keep on scratching those noodles. But I tell you, noodles, whatever. but I know that this is going to be a really good year, and I hope we can keep on doing a little bit of this. Like, maybe again, I know time is really valuable. Maybe we can come back on and again. But we will be in Vive for sure. So anyway, I don't know what else to say, but this is 2025, and it's going to be great. And healthcare is real, and it's personal, and our life is important, and the impact we can make and how we lead that with others and community. So that's what I'm just hoping to keep on doing more of this with all you guys. So anyway, I'll stop because I'm just jabbing.
I love it.
All right. So until next time, gang, we're out of here.